Hello, listeners, and thank you for joining us again today. I bring you a fabulous guest to talk about lots of very interesting things, particularly around stress. So our topic today is understanding how we are wired allows us to take control of our reactions. Oh, such a good topic for us as entrepreneurs. So my guest for today is Dr. Manon Bolliger. Welcome, Dr. Manon.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity of sharing this with your audience.
Look, absolutely honoured to have you here. So listeners, let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Manon. Now, she's been a very busy, well, not busy, I'm not allowed to say the word busy, and I've said it again, smack my fingers, productive. She's a very productive lady and certainly has achieved quite a lot of fabulous things. So let me tell you about her. So I'm going to read you this introduction. I'm going to pop my glasses on. Okay, so as a naturopathic medical doctor and CEO of Bowen College, where she has trained over 2,500 healthcare practitioners, Dr. Manon Bolliger helps people take ownership of their choices in health. She is launching a global health initiative based on collaboration and consolidation of complementary health practices for both impact and value. As the best-selling author of What Patients Don't Say If Doctors Don't Ask, her expertise is chronic physical and emotional pain, trauma, and shifting people to a mindset focused on health-nosis and not diagnosis. Let's see, did I just lose my place? No, I'm fine there. So while overcoming, so this is a little bit of a story, and I'll get Dr. Manon to talk to you more about her story shortly. But while overcoming stage 4 cancer without pharmaceutical or hysterectomy, she discovered that we are accustomed to thinking that conflict resolution is mediated externally. But when it comes to health, it is an internal process. She has pioneered the A Healer in Every Household movement, embracing the body's capacity to heal and the choice to govern how we live our lives. Her new book, A Healer in Every Household, Simple Solutions for Stress, is going to be launched very, very soon in this month, September 2020. So she's spoken on international stages like JT Fox's Money, Health and Business, has an upcoming TED Talks in Las Vegas, and that's the TEDx Talks, and is the host of the Healers Cafe podcast and has appeared on ABC, CTV and NBC. Yes, very busy. So it's lovely to have you here, Dr. Manon.
Yeah, productive. I'm actually on that thing. Not busy, productive.
Yes, that's right. And I mean it with positivity in every sense of the word. That we definitely don't want to have any negative connotations at all. We are positive and attracting the positive, doing positive, which is very, very important. And certainly with what we do, we're all business owners. Even though what you're doing is certainly very different to what I'm doing, I absolutely love what you do. I was going to say your subject, your topic. No, it's your expertise. I've listened to quite a few of your various different talks on your website there, which is absolutely fabulous, and how you tie in so many of the concepts around health with our own consciousness around it, really, and to self-heal. It's very much so what I believe in, and it's so important for business owners to have that. This is why I call this show the Prosper with Sonia Clark. It's not just about prospering with money, but it's prospering with our mindset, and it's prospering with our health. So you are the absolute expert in this, and then you get into it in a physical way. So please tell our listeners a little bit about your story.
Okay, well, thank you again for having me here. And there's so many parts that I would be excited to share, because this is the time, if any, that people are waking up to realizing that their health actually matters, right? We're
Mm.
in a pandemic. And if we look at everything that's going on, we are flooded with fear.
Mm.
And our reactions to fear and all of that, what we choose to do, what we know about how the body works is actually important. And as a business owner, we're constantly challenging ourselves, which can trigger fear, but we have to be able to know the difference between the type of fear that makes us grow from the fear that keeps us small. So there's so many things I can talk about, but
Mm.
you were asking a bit how my story and how I got interested in all of this.
Yes.
And so I'll give you the Coles notes because otherwise I could talk about my story in so many different angles. But it's really, for me, it was trained as a naturopathic medical doctor. I had all the sciences behind me. I understood how the body works to an extent, as much as any doctor does. But so much was not really talked about.
Mm.
And that was our way of dealing with conflict, what was in our entourage, the emotions that we can choose to express, suppress, or repress, basically.
Yes.
You know, so there's all these things that I did not realize, and our thoughts could impact my own health. So here I am, successfully practicing, even helping people that, you know, have severe chronic diseases, all kinds of, you know, inflammatory diseases, so-called incurable diseases, because that's how our medical system believes that so many things are incurable, because it's all based, as my intro sort of says, on the dia-gnosis, rather than how do we keep healthy.
Mm.
So what happened with me is I ended up with stage 4 cancer, which sounds crazy. I lived on a farm. I had plenty of physical activity. I ate organic food. I did everything right in a kind of way, except I had beliefs that I was strong enough to withstand the circumstances I was in at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I made up stories, stories that I thought served me. In fact, they were almost subconscious. They were how I was raised. And I didn't see or understand the impact of stress the way that graphically my body told me, well, you can think what you want, but my body had another impression of reality. It was collecting high levels of stress and giving me clear signs that it was time to stop believing what I believed. I wasn't here to save the world. I wasn't here to make everything okay for everybody else. I actually had to figure out what was, how to be more loving to myself, literally. And I didn't see it that way. You know, that's what happens when you have a perception change. You don't realize how entrenched you are in your own reality, in your own perception of reality. So that's what happened. And literally, I had a wake-up call. So, and I'll share this. I found that in my diary at one moment, after a very upsetting event, I wrote down, this is the day my cancer starts. Now, I have no recollection of writing this, but I was journaling every single day as one way, which is a good, healthy way to deal with ongoing issues and stress and etc. And I wrote that down. I found the diary later, but when I went to the oncologist, it was like I was in disbelief that this was true. I just thought it can't be true. I could not understand how what I then thought is my body's betraying me. Now I understand that my body was saving me. So again, that's another perception shift that couldn't have happened probably, for me anyways, with that experience. My goal is to allow people to see it before their body takes over and actually creates experiences like the one I had. Because I don't think everyone needs to have that experience. But in my path as a doctor, it was the perfect experience for me to really wake up and realize that our body and mind are so deeply connected. You can't separate one from the other. And my work, a lot of the work I do is also physical. So I was helping people with trauma, and I could see how you can shift the physiology and the experience that people receive through their body. But how many practitioners lay on their own tables and it's like the shoemaker, you know?
Yeah, or the mechanic's car. Yeah.
Exactly. You know? Yeah, so I didn't apply to myself what I preached, and what I said people, you know, could be doing for themselves to help themselves. So it's like I was really the end product of not following my best advice, and also not understanding deeply enough the impact that the body has, not just thoughts, but how the body receives this information.
And yeah, it's something that's always fascinated me. I think the body is just amazing, as well as the brain and the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, and certainly how it manifests, and then also how we change, particularly us women over time. Is gosh, we change a lot with our hormones and with the reactions to stress, being that there are different sorts of chemicals going on in our bodies, and really what are we doing to it, and certainly our lifestyle really doesn't facilitate that very well for us sometimes, no matter how well we're really trying. Then, you know, then you really start to get into huge deep dives. I remember starting to go on that journey quite some time ago when my father was dying of multiple brain tumors. And oh gosh, you know, it's a bit of a rabbit's warren really, and it sort of, it became overwhelming a little bit, and then go through it again then with my mother last year, and just to know, to at least have a heads up about how I could react unknowingly, but yet it still was quite amazing how the subconscious mind can come along and just go, nope, sideswipe you. You go, whoa, I wasn't even thinking about that, and then the stress can come through. So, I mean, we've got lots of different levels of stress with the various things that happen to us. And then if it's not happening directly to us, like this pandemic, as you mentioned, if we're not being directly affected with it, but then we are in another way with our businesses, particularly this year. So you also talk a lot around those stresses, those stress, and how to deal with it and how to think about it differently. And then you also get into it in a physical way. So tell us, please, how can we help ourselves a bit more?
Okay. I will definitely get to that. I do want to explain three things, three concepts that I feel would position the solutions. Otherwise, the solutions make less sense in my mind. So one is that we are wired to protect ourselves. Yes. Right. And this is not new. We know this. And that means, though, that our direct response to stressors will put us into fight or flight. The thing is, the variance that's less talked about is how we perceive stress. So what happens is that we have our own perceptual reality, our truth, but the trigger the new trigger may not warrant the old response we would have had to stress, to a stressor. Let me give you a good example of this, because I think once we have an example, it's less babbly. So I'll give an example that I'm sure that as entrepreneurs you will relate to. So stage fright, for example. So I had a Hollywood actor that came to see me, and so he's been in practice, quite known, no stage fright or the normal jitters of whatever that one has, but he was acting. And what happened to him is, almost overnight, in his rendition of the story, he got paralyzed. He literally could not speak on stages. He could no longer do his acting. So he went to psychotherapist. He took anxiolytics. He took, my God, his personality went seriously downhill. So he took antipsychotics. He did, what's that called? When he had like this knot in his stomach. So he took antispasmodics, anti-everything. Okay. But nothing helped him. So when he came to see me, I asked him, can you describe this pain and explain to me what you're experiencing and what you're feeling? And he described it in emotional terms, and that gave me a clue that it was literally stuck in his fascia. The fascia is kind of part of our body. It's the envelope that surrounds all our organs, and it's like the bubble wrap that keeps us buoyant. Okay. Anyway, so I started treating him, and during the treatment, suddenly he had this taste of anesthesia. And I don't use anesthesia because for the work, there's no need for it.
Yeah.
And so he was a little bit like freaked out, going, what is this? And yeah, just like my belief, we always know what's going on, like something comes up. So what came up for him is that he had re-experienced the initial massive fear that he had when he went to the dentist. He had surgery and they put anesthesia, and he got absolutely paralyzed by fear going to the dentist. So what happens is a tiny trigger, this stage fright, which is a almost non-event for him, got merged into his body's reaction to his experience of going to the dentist, and the brain couldn't tell the difference anymore. And so he was reacting from this merged small fear, big fear, merged into one, and that became his new reality. And so I have seen that over and over, and that gets trapped in our body. And so our thoughts can't necessarily get to that. He, of course, had been doing therapy. He did everything to get to it. But the body is programmed to heal. And if you can give it what it needs to go into what's called parasympathetic or vagal, to increase the vagal tone, what happens is that the body just wants to heal. And so it allowed whatever needed to happen to emerge. And he put 2 and 2 together, and that was the end of this subconscious, but also this protective mechanism that had kept him stuck for literally 5 years.
Wow. 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 I know that a lot of the times I mean, obviously it manifests in us. A lot of the times it's fascinating how a thought or sometimes it's still how we've processed something, really, whether we've given it a lot of thought or not. It's how our brain has taken on, like you said, the perception. And it's always really quite fascinating to see how it can emerge in the body, and where it depends on how aware you are of that. And it's not so woo-woo. and
No.
and it makes sense to me. I had never really thought about it as far as the fascia, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
But then I did see some various different things on YouTube when we look at, say, hiccups. I get a lot of hiccups and things like that, and that's all to do with the fascia. I was like, okay, I hadn't really looked into that. And yeah, just realizing that I mean, you know, it's all interconnected. Yeah, hello. I just haven't explored that particular avenue. So I'm going to explore that a whole lot more later today. And then the Bowen, of course, because I've heard of Bowen, and I you know, but I haven't deep dived into it. So I'm certainly going to Google that a little bit more.
Well, and it's interesting because in this case, it was Bowen therapy that I used as my treatment with him. But what's interesting is, again, this is in the eyes. I did not invent Bowen therapy, but in the last 30 years in my practice, I evolved it. And when I opened up my college, I connected the mind and the body in the teaching of it because of my experience with trauma work. And the original people who taught it to me from Australia, as it turns out, had a very physical way of looking at the body. So they would say, oh, it's, you know, it will help you with sciatica, with migraines, with structural issues. And they were not conscious. And this is normal, right? Things evolve. There's no blame here. This is how it is.
Yeah.
But they're in their 90s now. And so what I'm talking about sounds like woo-woo, except that, again, you create your reality. I ended up dealing with PTSD with all kinds of people with anxiety disorders and stress, not just physical disorders.
Yeah.
So because of that, I was able to merge the deeper understanding and actually get this. And that's sort of my my contribution to this incredible methodology. So
I think that's fabulous. And like I said, I have, you know, encountered that firsthand with the PTSD that I've had with the two parental deaths, but also then there's other things too in and around the various different types of stresses. And we all have those things in life, you know, when a child becomes suicidal and things like that. And then there's other types of stresses, just work and those last minute things that happen. And it's like, you know, I've got two choices how I deal and look at this. And typically I'm the sort of person that I'll deal with it really well in the moment. And then later, even if I'm not thinking about it, it can suddenly go boof and hit you. And there's various things that are another extra layer upon that, you know, putting on weight and those sorts of things. But so, and I can certainly see, because this is our body, of course there's a connection between mind and body. And I love the fact that you're doing that. There needs to be so much more effort and help, but so many people need help with the various different things that they go through in life. And it's fabulous that you're doing that. No, sorry, keep going.
No, I was just going to say what you just shared is recognizing the connection. And so I thought also having a bit of a list of things that people can go, oh, maybe I am impacting negatively, or I'm not managing my stress properly. And this would be, weight gain is huge for that, especially belly fat and upper back kind of fat. So I'm not seeing you, so I can't tell.
Thank goodness.
It's not
Thank
personal.
goodness.
High blood pressure,
Mhm.
fatigue, like fatigue
Gosh,
that
yeah, I'm
doesn't
ticking every box at the moment. Yeah, keep going.
insomnia, irritability, difficult concentrating, and muscle weakness. These are all a direct like sign of not dealing with our stress response very well.
Mm.
And so that means, and just to make it clear why that happens, is that because the primary function of the body, one of the three, I still have two more.
Yes, I know. I was just thinking that right then.
Is to protect ourselves.
Yes.
What happens is we stay in that mode. So instead of the the tiger or whatever else we were fleeing and then we have a break, we have this accumulated constant level of stress,
Yes.
which
Not healthy.
impacts every organ in our body.
Well,
And
we release more of the negative toxins, don't we? With the chemicals, the ones that can really be not good.
Exactly. So we have more cortisol, which cortisol itself, we need it. But when there's too much of it and it overrides, or like our whole body is linked, right? The liver can't deal with detoxing. The pancreas starts, shooting out insulin, but not enough. The body produces sugar to feed the brain. Because what happens when we're in stress mode, we can't think straight. And it's by purpose, right? When you're running away from a tiger or whatever, you don't need necessarily, I kind of disagree with the thought of this, but I would rather have my brain. But apparently we need it all in our muscles so we can run, right?
Yeah.
So our frontal cortex, the one that allows us to consider, is not working as well as it could, because everything's flushed into the rest of our organs to be able to get away. So part of the solution is recognizing the stressors and our bodily reactions to them. So just noticing a change in our pulse, in our breathing patterns, all these autonomic things that we never think about, or the fact that we can't digest, because like if our body's not functioning, we're not digesting the foods that we need. We're not creating intrinsic factor. We're not doing whatever it is, the right enzymes to digest what we're eating. And so we get, these are signs for us to wake up and go, am I chewing my food? Am I taking the time to actually eat in peace rather than gobbling it up? So these are all little ways that we can become more conscious of what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
The second point, this one's a bit shorter, but it's that we have, I think it's 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And that's a tremendous amount of thinking. Most of it is negative. And that's in the subconscious.
Yeah.
So if it's there, what we haven't really allowed ourselves to work with is, and this is a system I use, which I think is brilliant. It helped me. I don't like the thought, and it's not denial, but if the thought doesn't feel good to me, once it surfaces, I let it go. What I literally do is I imagine putting the thought in a little cloud and puffing it away. Like I go, and what happens, because these are repetitive thoughts, they're not there to serve us. They're just creating the same, what's that called? When you're driving a car and you're making like more and more layers. What's that? Or what's the words in English? Hang on, I will think of the word. It's like you're hardwiring basically your body to receive all this negative messaging. So whenever you feel things like shame, self-judgment, blame, self-blame, any of these things, you have to think to yourself, this is probably not serving me. This is coming from something else. And I don't have to believe these thoughts.
Yep.
Which sounds like suppression, but it isn't, because thoughts are not the be end all of everything. Because we know in business, for example, you can't just have a positive thought of how your business goes. You have to invest in the positive thought with every emotional fiber in your entire body. You have to believe the thought, deeply believe the thought. You have to visualize it to the point that you can see it, feel it, smell it. You just know why you're so passionate to get what you want done, right? That's how you have a chance of getting there, because your body, and that's my third point, doesn't know what's real from not real. Your brain can't actually differentiate the two. So it's the same. If you spend your time in the negative thought that is likely subconscious, likely something you were told when you were a child, or something you came to believe without thinking about it, because till the age of 7, we can't actually evaluate this. We get stuck in the rut. That was the English word I was looking for. The rut. And we keep, repeating the very same thoughts for no reason. So for me, it's like, if it's a thought and it doesn't feel good, I move it on. And it's incredible how, if you're not paying attention to it because you're not giving it value, it actually disappears. It doesn't seem to be there. But here's what I do instead. I focus on the things that change my chemistry completely. So I focus on things I am really grateful for. And then we have all the positive, endorphins that come in our body that actually change our chemistry, that actually make us calm. And that's how we're wired. So it can start by, because I can be quite goal oriented. So I'm thinking, this goal, well, I've already been working on this for 15 years. It hasn't happened yet, but so don't make every little thing matter, everything that you're thrilled about. And if you can go to bed and you can't be thrilled about at least 3 things you've accomplished, it's because you haven't created the habit to be grateful for everything. So I have come to celebrate just about everything. Celebrate before it happens, celebrate that it will happen, celebrate just the feeling that I have. Like I'm on this podcast with you, and I'm celebrating the opportunity I have to touch people's lives. And it's like it changes my internal physiology. So it's not woo-woo. It actually is in our body. And I think that's really important to understand. And I think go on, sorry, you were going to say something.
Well, I was just going to say absolutely. And I did know that I've witnessed it, even with someone that I knew who was riddled with cancer. She ended up living another 10 years longer than what any of the doctors ever said. And then looking at what is cancer with the amount of dead cells compared to the amount of live cells. And we're always producing new live cells. So it's about producing new ones that are very healthy and strong. Our body has the ability to do that and then flush out the other old dead ones, or, we can get it cut out, I suppose, if it's in a nice little lump area. But it's amazing that we are built to do that. But we're such a complex. Every single person is completely different, though. So I can understand where they find it really quite difficult. And it's also amazing to think about how much of a 360 medicines are sort of doing. And people think, this is new or a woo-woo. Well, hold on, actually, a long time ago we were doing that and it was working really well. So Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Well, I think, yeah, part of what you're bringing up too is kind of a choice in health, right? So I believe, and again, this is not to blame, because I believe that we co-create very much the reality that's in front of us. We have been trained to think that everything comes from the outside.
mm,
So that we have things that we need to anti this and anti that, rather than learn to trust that our bodies, if we can nourish our bodies and create the environment and the safety in our body, that our immune system would work much better. Everything would work better. And that's why to me, I looked at diagnosis, and I kind of separated it that way. Diagnosis gives you the idea that, well, it comes with a prognosis. The prognosis means what's going to happen for you, as if everything about you is already known. And it's not. But if we live in a society based on disease management, right, that doesn't really believe that things are curable. Like in my profession, I can't use the word cure. And like, if you think about that, and even though I could say that I have helped many people, that's as far as I can go. I cannot say the word cure, because it's on a paradigm of disease management. It's all about managing your symptoms and taking the appropriate drugs to manage these symptoms.
which is very
Right?
much the after everything. Yeah, well,
It
let's
is.
be proactive instead of reactive.
Exactly. And if we look at this pandemic, which I'm also technically not allowed to talk about from a health perspective, so I'm just going to talk about fear, as if fear is nothing to do with health. If we live in fear, that has a major impact on our bodies. So when you look at the way the news is given, and every country might be a little bit different, but I have friends worldwide. Whether you fear the virus or you fear what might happen or whatever it is, you're in fear. And then if people are all masked up, and there's scientifically there's many opinions on this, so I'm not even going to go into that. And the politics, at least I'm in Canada, but in the US, it's pretty intense, so I'm not even going to go there either. but the physiology of fear is a true happening thing. And so one of the things that I believe we need to do is take charge of our own health and create a safety within us. And that's really the third point where I'm going with that, is that with this discernment of understanding that we get triggered, that the way our perceptions of things are reality.
Oh, I just lost your audio a little bit there.
Yep,
so you were saying that your perception.
Yeah, our perception of reality is always from our perception of reality. It isn't reality, and our body doesn't know the difference anyways, right? So if we know that and we see that as, like with evolution, that what we need to be going towards is understanding that we can create new, authentic, embodied experiences. Literally change our physiology, the way our body experiences things, so that it is safe. And that's why this movement, A Healer in Every Household, what I am wanting people to deeply understand and know is that the feeling of safety in your own body, in cellularly, through your fascia, which then hydrates everything and allows everything to happen better anyways, changes all the hormones in your body and puts you out of fight and flight. And since most of us are in this sympathetic overdrive, to me, it's that's why I'm passionate. That's why I do what I do. I want everyone to know about this, have access to this, and yeah, that's
I think it's so important. I think it's very, very important. And I think that, well, I was just thinking about why have I come along and thought and felt this way for a very long time. And I think when I was younger, I did competitive sports and I could see the difference. And I learned a lot of those sorts of methodologies and applied it in sport. So to be able to visualize and how to heal your body mentally, because if you wanted, because someone else will take your spot otherwise. And when a lot of doctors said, oh no, you'll not recover from that, well, watch me, if other people can do it, then I can. And then I think that, you know, you bring souls into the world with having children, and you look for alternatives and how to do that in a better way and get their build up their resistance and resilience and all of those sorts of things. So certainly as adults, we need to be doing that more and focus then on ourselves. And certainly then when we have businesses, we are leaders. We are leaders of ourselves first, self-leadership, and then leaders to others. So again, we have to have that responsibility to look after ourselves and look after those that we impact in a holistic way, with both, whether they're clients or whether they're people that we work with. So if they're staff, or whether we do a cross collaboration, or even something like what you and I are doing, just that little bit of a collaboration and to join together to help others and bring awareness. So I so get it. And I really hope that a lot of the listeners are getting that, and they can take that along and go and spread that to other people. And of course, they have access to your book on that, which is fabulous. Yay!
Yeah.
It's being released this month. So tell us then, okay, you have to tell us what's on the horizon now for you for the remainder of this 2020.
Okay. Well, I was going to say there is the book and the webinar, rebootyourbody.info. So that is a free gift in that sense. But what's also on the horizon for me is an online business mastery. And what I did is I realized that so many healers and healthcare practitioners and people in the helppreneur space were really being deeply affected by their inability to be online. And so I had interviewed so many of them because I've trained so many. And so I decided to do a 3-day event on the 24th to the 26th of this month. And I'll actually be launching my book at that event. So wow. I'm putting it all together. But that's, yeah, that for me, it really is a time for healers to step up and take a much bigger place. This world desperately needs healing, and it isn't a virus. We are in a society that has socioeconomic issues, that has tremendous anxiety and depression and increased suicide rates. A lot of healing needs to take place. So
absolutely.
I need a team. I cannot do this alone. I want to help everyone who can help in that way.
That sounds really, really lovely. So there you go, people. We have to gather together, whether you're and certainly with what you're saying there, Manon, is if they're a healer of sorts, but even those that collaborate with healers, I think everyone needs to step Absolutely. Up and can be there. So I've got the details from you, and I'll be putting that on my webpage there, where they can find the Reboot Your Body info. And that URL, and then also about, so is that the actual same as the online business mastery, or are they two?
No, it's two different things. The subject that I've been talking about, and to go more in depth about this, is under rebootyourbody.info. But what's new and coming up is this online business mastery, which is through Bowen College, and I can give you that link. So that's more for understanding the online world, another part of what I do, but not what I've been talking about.
Oh, well, you know, it's in alignment, isn't it? And then you'll be releasing your book on with it as well. So that's
Correct.
really awesome. Really, really lovely. And so is there a offer that you would like to provide to the listeners?
An offer?
Yeah. So is the actual online mastery event the offer?
No, the rebootYourBody.info is the offer.
Right.
But let me just tell you something interesting. If you have these people in the audience that are interested to come to the 3-day event, I'm actually in the, when I'm launching my new book, I'm actually going to be giving my entire training course for free, not just the webinar. So that's how I'm going to succeed in doing Amazon bestseller. So if anyone wants to play, feel free to join.
That sounds seriously awesome. So your whole entire training course, you'll have to give us a little bit of a sneak peek though. What's involved in that course then?
So the course that is with the Reboot Your Body is actually the entire home care system, how you can change internally through this very simple body work. But it also explains the why. And I made it for families because I had so many of my patients that asked me, can you do something on video so that, one, I can understand why this works, why I no longer have this, that, or whatever. And it's very basic, but very effective. And then the other thing is like a real taste of what it's like to do a simple treatment. So it's actually 6 weeks training.
I think that's awesome. I think that's awesome. There's lots of things. I get that because there's lots of things that I've gone off and done. And how do I take it home and explain it to them, to my family, especially if they're like, especially like, you know, men, they tend to be those, you know, the bears that don't want to look after themselves. But it's like, but I know I can help you. And then when they have applied it a little bit and they go, oh, wow, that was great. What was that again? I've forgotten. So that's really great that you've actually put together these videos and the training, and so that people can implement it into the household. I think that's really, really lovely, a very special gift. So,
and that's really the idea of a healer in every household, because who doesn't need one person? And everyone does. Somebody says, you know, that's me. Like if you find yourself, like, who's the one who finds the immediate solution? That's the one, right? I can see your eyes going.
Yeah, I'm rolling my eyes. I'm trying not to do it. Why does it always tend to be the mums anyway? Yes. But look, it's because I have not only myself, but I've witnessed it time and time again with so many other people. So I really implore a lot of the people that are listening to then sort out your work and to follow through on that, which is really lovely. And look, I thank you very much for your time today. It's been absolutely fascinating to listen to the ins and out there. Gosh, I could really get you talking a whole lot more, but I'm aware of time here, so there'll have to maybe be another time.
We can.
We'll get maybe even start to go down some of those actual how-tos with the steps and exactly how to put that into action might be a good idea. So listeners, I will rely then on you stepping forward and saying, hey, I want to know this now a little bit more from Dr. Manon, and then we can pin her down again.
Okay. I would be grateful.
Am I persuasive?
No, very good.
Well, look, thank you very much. Is there any last minute thing you might want to say before we sign off?
I think the statement, how you live is how you heal, which is, I had this strong feeling about that. And I feel like it's true. They're not divided. It's how you do everything is how you do anything is how you do everything. And ultimately we have to put healing in the equation, and we've got to enjoy how we live, because that's also how we heal. So it's looking at that, the bigger picture of loving our life.
Beautiful. Absolutely love that. And then that way we can be the best leaders that we possibly can. Love it. Look, thank you once again. And I'll say see you later.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye, Sonia.